Hi guys. Basically, this was my first time doing a video, but I was moved. So there were certain things I wrote them down so I don't forget. Today, as usual, usually when there's like an event happening at the Élysée in the presidential palace in France, I attend as a journalist and as a filmmaker. Um, I see things and I see leaders week after week, and the more I see them, the more I realize that like we have a lot in common as people. Like for example, if I'm a journalist with an Arab background and I want to interview a British ambassador or a British prime minister or a French prime minister, there's certain things that I got accustomed to. Like for example, we have a lot of common things now since we live in a global village. Like the world has changed, but technically there are certain points I want to comment on concerning Boris Johnson's visit. First of all I have that a feeling that each time that each country now from now on will isolate itself in the future, and this immigration and migration mode we are all in will cease to exist with 5 to 10 years tops. I do believe personally that the religion has played a big role in shifting the political order of nations, uh, not in a good way. I have noticed that people used to notice your background as a complimentary thing, like, hey, like I can see that you have those lovely eyes. Where are you from? So I'm from blah blah blah, and then they consider it like a cherry on top, an addition to your personality. It used to be like an asset, like your ethnic or different background, but now it is something that is it's an obligation to know where you are, so they know how to deal with you. It's becoming weird and difficult, and I've noticed that even with the journalists that we were not only in this visit, in other visits, like they usually want to know where you're from so they can know how to deal with you and what words to say, and it's kind of weird. um, Personally, I do not feel distant from the British culture or the American culture or the Arab culture, is because I grew up in all of the above. So basically, where do I belong? When someone asks me where are you from, Farah, I was like, okay, I usually describe the birth, like my mom was born here, my dad was born here, but I was raised here because that's the truth. I grew up in the most interesting cities in the world, in London, in Lebanon, in Beirut, in New York, Los Angeles, now in Paris, a little bit in Cairo when I was young. So basically, I'm from all these places. I mean, we have this. I mean, and also globalization have helped us as a whole, like as a people, to have similar tastes. Like we all have that mocha grande. We all have that this like relationship with Starbucks. When we are like we're busy, we want to like get to work. Where do we go? We go to Starbucks anywhere we are in the world. Also, we have Netflix. We share the same interests. Like I think like 80% of people in our third generation, I'm gonna call our generation the third generation, is like a mix between different generations. We end up in bed after work watching Netflix, and I think that certain elements in our lives have shaped our lifestyle. So we have a similar lifestyle. I'm totally confirmed. I'm sure there's someone like me living in London, in Paris, in Kuwait, in Tokyo, in Berlin. We have the same things we like and we hate because there are certain interests that have, I don't know, brought us together. And it kills me. It really bothers me when I see that the countries are trying to divide us. Like now, we're gonna need like a visa to go to London, and luckily, where I come from, my passport allows me to get a waiver to go, which is fine. But I need to be able to work, to be able to live, to be able to start a business or something. We can no longer do that, and I don't know. I don't like this. But what are you gonna do? I think every country now is just mirroring a certain image, a certain idea, which is like being they're associating being a national loyal to your country with the idea of hating on immigration. And I don't think that this should be the case. I think we should be loving our country, being supportive, and at the same time accepting others, because I don't know, because we don't choose where we are born. I mean, we're born, and that is beyond our control. So our will comes from the, sorry for my computer, it's like popping notifications. So our will comes from the fact that we chose to live in London, for example. So we're Londoners. I chose to be a New Yorker, so I'm a New Yorker. I chose to be a Parisienne, so I'm a Parisienne, because this is my own will. I mean, doesn't the will count anymore? It's not accountable for anything these days. That's it. I mean, this is just a comment on top of my head. That's all.